Have questions?
Now we do want to provide the opportunity for everybody on Zoom and in the audience here to ask questions, and you can ask them of any of our panelists.
I hope nobody's offended, but would you please spell that wood, shittim?
Shittim, yeah, Shittim. Of course, that's a transliteration of the Hebrew, but shittim in the Bible.
It's scared. It scared me.
I have a question. Why is
Can
the
you,
government
when you ask the question, can you come up so we could all hear the question? And I have a chair, and if you'll sit in the chair, then everybody will be able to see and hear the question that you're asking.
Why is the government concealing UFO contact?
Why is the government concealing everything about UFOs? Well, we heard a lot about that earlier. Short answer, money.
Sit in the chair.
They want to, the thing that the government, especially the military industrial complex, always wants to promote, which we heard earlier, is there's a terrible, 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 terrible threat from somewhere else. Don't quite know where, doesn't matter, but there's a huge threat there, but we can protect you from it if you give us like hundreds of billions of dollars to build all this stuff. And the fact that there really isn't any threat doesn't serve them, so you'll never hear that from them. And they've been playing this game. They play Congress like an organ and just throw in these threat reports and say, here's the latest terrible, terrible threat. We'll have to build a ring of outward facing satellite, yeah, whatever. And the crazy thing is, they're always trying to defend against these terrible, terrible aliens with Star Wars type things like shoot them up, boom, boom. These guys operate through universal consciousness. There's no shooting at them. I mean, if they want to be sitting in your living room, they'll be sitting there and they'll be cloaked and no one will see, they don't see that. No one knows what they're really dealing with. And I could even give I feel guided to add an optional thing. But it's really important, I think, that people get this. Even if you didn't know you had this question, I know you have this question. Now, this is channeled from a ET entity known as Bashar. That's not his real name. That just means messenger in Arabic. But it's a human being channels this ET entity. This is one of the channeling sessions. We have, of course, heard from you the question over and over and over and over and over and over again. Why don't you just land and get it over with? The idea is simply that it's not appropriate not only for us, it's not appropriate for you, for the following reason. There are different states that you may be in, and the different state of vibration is representative of a different state of psychology. And when you are still experiencing the idea where there might be belief systems that are buried within you that you might be afraid to look at, then that you're not ready to integrate, interacting with a civilization that is more highly integrated would be like taking a very slow turning gear and a very high speed turning gear and jamming them together before they have a chance to synchronize. Our vibration would overwhelm you to the point that it would force the issues you're not ready to look at to the surface of your consciousness, and in many cases actually cause psychotic shock. That wouldn't be very beneficial for our communication in the future. Now, we have many of you say, oh, no, I'm ready, land tomorrow, land your ship tomorrow. I'm ready to walk on board and say howdy. All right. However, many times people have asked us this. And in the 23 of your years that we have been communicating with you in this way, we have agreed on 3 different occasions to go ahead and do that. We've told the person where to go, when to be there, and that we would land our ship and meet them. In every single case, no matter how sure they were that they were ready, as soon as they perceived that they started to see something coming down and landing, every single one of them ran, scared out of their wits. And this is the really important part, isn't it? Not because they were scared of us, because they were scared of what was coming up within them. And it was overwhelming them. And in that sense, they couldn't deal with it, panicked, and fled. It's a real energy vibration. And what you are experiencing of our energy in this, because we are obviously giving off a percentage of our energy through the channel's body, and in that sense, into this room, immersing you in it, as we are then picking up on the vibrations of all of you, what you are experiencing of our energy now is about 1/10 of 1% of what we are. The idea is to understand that this must be done gently, so that you meet us halfway at least, so that you really understand what you're getting involved in. Because you must understand what you are coming into contact with is an entire galactic society. And much of the idea of how it functions is nothing like a lot of your science fiction. It functions in a very different way, using synchronicity in ways you have absolutely no idea of, to allow itself to expand and grow and interact with other beings and have experiences that you would find daunting at this particular point. So basically, if you're going to sit down with an ET, it's kind of sort of like preparing to be in the presence of the ark. You better spend a few days purifying your psychology and your spirituality and moving your personal vibration as close to your highest ideal as you possibly can, or you won't be ready. And one way or another, you'll be blown away physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, something. So, now don't get me wrong, I'm all for meeting with the ETs. I'd love to see exopolitics developed a lot more in a mature and reasonable way. Not a trained ET show, not like Barnum Bailey, actually have interface with other civilizations. But as was said otherwise earlier, they don't think we're ready, because all we do is spend all our money and time on tribal warfare, as they call it. They consider all humanity to be one race. So everything we do is like civil war, tribal war, just fighting all the time. What's up with you guys? You guys are nuts. You have a nice planet here. Why do you spend all your time fighting? So we don't seem to be ready yet, but hopefully we will.
We have a question in the back. Can you come up and sit in the chair, Alan, so we can hear your question and see your face, please?
I remember where I got this
Oh my
information.
God, I'm seeing it.
I've been casing readings, I'm not sure.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure where I got the Casey readings or what. Some of it's been taken out because of our world. But we're here to be trained for being gods to other planets in the future. Have you heard of that before?
Oh, yeah.
And it's gonna take a little time, like if we have atomic bombs that are killing people with, use it for energy. 10 Commandments are the correct approach to understanding why we're here. If we are to grow spiritually and mentally, and maybe even physically, I don't know, we'll be almost like gods. Unfortunately, we have a black man, white, yellow, red, races. Different nations have different colors and barriers and everything else. How many people believe in the 10 Commandments? How many people practice the 10 Commandments?
Alan, do you have a question?
Well, how long is it going to take for humanity to grow up?
All right, that's a good question. Do we have a panelist who can answer that question? Perhaps Geraldine, could you unmute yourself?
Sure, that's such an excellent question. I cannot reference the Ten Commandments specifically to answer the question, but I can tell you that just like there are commandments, there are laws of the universe. And I believe that these laws of the universe do govern us in a way that we seem to be evolving as part of the natural existence of this reality. We are evolving. What does that mean? That we are changing in frequency, right? So the evolutionary process is going from a lower frequency to a higher frequency, and that changes in such a profound way our organisms, because we're deeply interconnected to this greater organism as one. And so right now, all the humans that incarnated at this timeline are incredibly, incredibly special. I can say that because in our DNA, in our history, and everything that we're experiencing collectively, just looking at what's been happening over the past 3-4 years, really this entire global movement is shifting powerfully. And there are global events that have contributed to that shift, that are continuing to contribute to that shift. So we're moving rapidly. And to answer your question quickly, it really is up to us. So those of us that are here in this group, for example, are accessing some information that's not very common. But the question is, what do we do with this information? I think the important thing is to integrate it deeply and to embody the lessons of this information, which I can say maybe collectively are to begin to train our multisensory abilities, our intuition, our vision, and most importantly, to be able to observe all of these unknown things, as was discussed earlier, without a place of fear or judgment, to practice neutral, non-judgmental 0 point in the body is a biochemical, bioelectrical structure of the body. And it literally shifts timelines collectively. So when the human begins to embody that, we can literally contribute to perhaps expediting collectively that movement, so it really is up to us, our embodiment of non-judgmental neutrality, not only in waking state, but dream state, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, is kind of the mastery and the cultivation of this human body through this life experience. And that's where I would say, but I will tell you that as a psychic, and of course, speaking with many other psychics, I will tell you that within the next 4 years, we're going to move very, very quickly. And the question is, how much are you working on yourself to be able to catch up to the changes that are happening? Because for many people, they're going to want to hold on to past paradigms, past beliefs, past system. So we need to work really deeply within ourselves where we hold on to old paradigm ideas, concepts, limiting belief systems very quickly, because every human will be pushed in the directions of where they're holding tight onto. So this is just an invitation that I suggest for this. So maybe Catherine has something to say.
Thank you, Geraldine. Catherine, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, thank you, Geraldine. Very well said. And what I just want to say is that we are so much more than just these physical bodies. So any work that we do on ourselves, we're actually doing on the collective. So it's not only important for ourselves individually and our immediate family lineage that are in this realm. This actually creates a ripple effect, and it affects all different dimensions, timelines. I think we're going to be really surprised when we go home and we see the work that we did, the hard work that we did here on ourselves, and how much it really affected the whole. I think we're just really going to be very, very, very surprised. So that's really all I want to say. But it's worth it. I know it's hard. It can feel like it could feel like you're living hell on earth at times when you're going through these really, really profound shifts. But when you come out of that, there's such a freedom and a purification that happens within the soul that it's worth every ounce of agony, I think, that's based on my experiences. But I know that it affects so much more than we're aware of at this time. So, thank you.
Casey,
Thank you.
Casey has a question.
Yeah.
Let me-
So I'm not sure exactly how this is going to come out as a question. I heard very clearly through many of you this idea that we are unified, we are one, we are the cosmic hologram, the universe is built on love. And here on our beautiful green planet, we have duality of light and dark, good and evil. And if we're all ascending as light workers, I've always kind of had this question, like I've always asked myself, how do we dance with darkness? How do we understand darkness? How do we have a relationship with darkness? And of course, it's inside first, because everything out there is a reflection of inside. But does the dark ascend and evolve as we just do our work and turn our back on the darkness so we're not in war with it? Do you see what I'm saying? And then as we do our own inner work, the darkness just naturally comes along for the ride due to the holographic collective tipping point? Or does that make sense? Or because I know for me, like even with the ET discussion we had here today, part of my karma has been to learn how to be present with great darkness, like through my family system. And clients have come to me discussing with tears and weeping very negative experiences with the ET consciousnhow. And so I'm always working like with the ascended masters and protection and archangels, sort of truth, etc. But I'm not even sure what my question is, except that do we take care of most people would say from a psychological perspective that you walk away from the poison, but how does the poison evolve if we walk away from it?
No, good question.
Could either Catherine or Geraldine, Catherine, could you unmute and then Geraldine might comment too? Catherine, go ahead.
Yeah. This is, just from what I have observed in my own journey, I feel that once we learn to love ourselves, and not in a selfish way, not in a way that hurts others or harms others, but in a way that honors who we really are, who our true spirit is. A lot of times, those negative influences that are in our life will fall away, because they're not in alignment with who we truly are. They really want us to stay stuck in old patterns and be part of that dance or part of that chaos system. Once we honor ourselves and we work on our own life and our own light and what we are here to bring into the world, that, like I had mentioned earlier, ripples out into the collective consciousness. And everyone is on their own unique individual journey here. So we don't really know how that affects others, but I can assure you that it is positive. We may not even know any of that until we go home, how it really did affect. But what I do know is that when we work on ourselves, when we get to know ourselves and who we truly are, it really does affect so many other people around us in positive ways.
So you do believe it gets worked out through the holographic consciousness. And as long as enough of us are walking in the truth of that love and that light and that oneness, that the dark aspects of humanity or ET consciousness or whatever naturally evolves, kind of like the 100th monkey.
Right. Well, they will either fall away and, collect within, their own like attracts like, until they're ready to step up, until they're ready to start looking at themselves, until they're ready to take that next step in their own evolution. So
I guess my question, and hopefully people will appreciate this, like it was beyond a miracle that the Qatari people held a space for this truce and this peace for 7+ days with two warring factions that don't trust the other, that feel like the other is impossible to reason with. And yet there was this pause of love and understanding and peace for these 7 days, mediated through a third party. And that wasn't necessarily walking away from the war and just saying, well, it's not on our vibration, so let them all kill each other and have it work out later. I don't know. I guess I'm just happy that there are glimpses of moving beyond what our human psychology says is impossible. You know, so many of the Israelis said there's no way to reason with Hamas. You know, we have no choice but to obliterate them. These kinds of questions just fascinate me. So I'm not really asking.
Let's give Geraldine a chance to comment
What?
on this.
Just gone you.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
I
ready
can
for
be
somebody
gone.
else.
Okay.
So first of all, I thank you so much for that super, super important question. Such an important question. So I just want a couple of points I jotted down. Number one, first of all, we need to understand suffering is not normal. Suffering survival is not normal. That's not a state of being that we need to exist in. That is matrix programming. And we have to be very clear about that. The difference about what is illusion and what we take on as truth and what is actually the real structure of the laws of this universe, which are not based on suffering, they're based on creation. And first of all, in this three-dimensional plane, it's dualistic. So we have to experience contrast in order to experience, you know, both sides. This 3D, this very physical sensory body, we are designed mechanistically to experience contrast. Okay, so that means that the mastery of that is the mastery of this organism through the emotional body. Okay, and so essentially how that will look is that the darkness, actually, you will never understand love, never, until you understand darkness. That's the most important thing that I discovered in my healing journey, that until I went deep into the darkest shadows of myself, the shame, the guilt, the disgust, very interesting emotion when you dive into disgust of things, the judgment of things, the shame of things, that is where you're gonna bioelectrically, biochemically, psychologically, subconsciously dissolve your entanglement and co-creation of that darkness to the collective. Okay, so when you dive into that and begin to resolve your judgments of those emotions, feelings, and experiences, this is where you will learn to love, actually, because you will learn compassion by neutral observation of things that you cannot fathom in this moment in your construct of belief system. You will understand how to love unconditionally. That is the key of freedom that each human has. That's actually where the human even has free will for the first time. Okay, is when you are able to access those darknesses, emotionally master yourself to witness them, in order to be compassionate and unconditionally loving. That's the manifestation and embodiment of unconditional unity consciousness that these extraterrestrials, for example, embody, right? To the point where they see this kind of thing and they understand the cause and effect of that kind of disharmony. And remember that the disharmony we experience, like the wars that are happening in this world, are an absolute direct reflection of the internal wars that we have within ourselves. This is like, as an organism, we are a fractal of this world. So we have to remember, we have a lot more responsibility in the creation of these dark shadows in this world than we might understand, than we might know. So that's just my couple cents.
Well,
on
I
that.
agree 100%. Yeah. Thank you.
I would like to speak to the question. Lately, I've been receiving and studying the videos of Sarah Breskman Cosme, who's a level 3 QHHT practitioner. And she regresses people to deep hypnosis and asks the higher self universal questions. And one of the questions was about the ascension. And I transcribed the message, and I'd be glad to send it to you if you let me know you'd like to receive it. But basically, she said there's a high energy frequency that's beaming to the earth, and it's going to remove the darkness, that dark part within us, and send it into the source to be reprogrammed and to be reprocessed, repurposed is the word she used. And it's going to replace that with new high energy within us. And I thought that answers that question about how is the darkness going to be removed. Oh, now, if you're interested, in order for this to happen more effectively, I'm thinking, I've got a video, we've all got a video of this, and I can send it to you. It's on my Zoom cloud, and I can send you the key, and you can schedule a meeting in your home, and everybody can see this. You just got to invite your friends. And so we could spread this. Is there a question from somebody perhaps on Zoom? Is there a question from somebody here? Okay, Stephanie, can you come sit in the chair, please?
Well, like you, I just wanted to add, there's lots of different ways to approach things, seemingly. And one that answers this questions that I'm more familiar with is through astrology. And very positive. Next 10 years are going to be tough, but we're moving in this direction very clearly according to astrologers who work with the planets and whatever. So that's, I don't know if that fits, if anybody has a comment on that, but I'll just go back to my seat now.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Someone else? Can you sit in the chair, please?
A quick question. Catherine?
You need to take your mask off so we can hear you better when you sit down.
I'll just hold it away.
All right.
It's Catherine.
Yes.
I just wanted to know if she had any clips. She was saying that she took videos of what she saw of the
Orbs in the tree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Catherine?
Yes, I do have those photos and videos. Yes, and I do plan on showing those at a, different times. So today's not the day for that, but I will be showing those in the future.
All right, we're past our time. I don't mind staying. We have the free use of the room as long as you want. Anybody else has a question or a comment?
I have a question that came up when Alan was up here.
Can you go sit in the chair, please, Jonelle?
Where are you, Alan? I wanted, oh, thank you. So happy to see you. I didn't know you were still around. He's such a dear person. But what came up for me that I wanted to ask you when you were in the chair was, this dispensation of time that's happening now. I understand that it started, a big part of it was this past May, and it will continue. And they are claiming from all the research I did and with the friends that were with me when we were part of that, that every human being on the planet, their consciousness, all the terrorists, was lifted. I was there at the out at the sand bridge where we could see the clear sky, and the three friends I was with, we all walked away feeling an energy that we had, the heart chakra, the butterflies, the happiness. It was like we were all reborn again. It was a quantum leap catapult. We were catapulted exponentially into a whole nother dimension. And for me, that's amazing because I've been in the ozone since I was a toddler. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonelle. Someone on Zoom perhaps have a question or a comment. Let's give the people in the Zoom a chance to speak up. You'd have to unmute yourself first. All right, I don't see any hands there. Someone else in the room has their hand up, please. Carol, would you sit in the chair, please?
Okay, I have a little bit of a problem with equating the Israelis and the Hamas
Can you speak louder?
Speak up a little bit.
I have a problem with equating the Israelis and the Hamas gang as equal partners in some kind of faction of war. It is not equal. Hamas is interested in death. They love death. They love misery. They are deeply dark people until perhaps they need 25 more lives. According to Edgar, I would say it's 100.
All right.
You know, it has to do with evolution. It has to do with caring about life, love, equality of the sexes. It's a kind of.
Thank you, Carol, for your comment. Could one of our experiencers, Catherine
I
or
mean, people
Geraldine,
with-
comment on what Carol has just expressed?
Thank you.
Catherine, did you want to say something? No.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's such a horrible situation that we're viewing on the TV and that's happening. And I think for me at first I was really pulled into it a little bit, and then I realized that, you know, all I can really do is pray for them and pray that there's some kind of solution. That's all I really want to say about that. Yeah, if you want to say something, Geraldine, go ahead.
Sure. You know, I would love to invite you to take a look at something about, you know, the mechanisms of co-creation, because the way that we are created, because we are one, every single moment is a rebirth, if you can think of it this way, okay? And every single moment, when you embody a certain emotion, you are creating a charge that is input into the collective. And this is very important to understand, because you as an individual, you have your own universe that you exist in, that you co-create. You are an amalgamation of your ancestral lineage. And within your own history, you have a lot of wars and suffering that even yourself are recovering from. Subconsciously, we have a lot of pain and suffering that we hold within our body that we are playing out subconsciously in our everyday experiences. And maybe we begin to discover that within the past 24 hours, week, month, most of our emotions are feelings of helplessness, despair, anger, frustration, and sadness. And if your life is this kind of a life with this kind of emotional charge into the collective, remember that we are also not being compassionate of the whole. In some way, we are also causing a greater suffering for the collective, because the mechanisms that you will see and that I've heard across the board, and all these wonderful seers and psychics and speakers around the world, ascended masters, have all said that we create our reality, and that when we change ourselves, we change the collective. And so we really need to integrate that as light workers, seekers, and people that are looking for harmony and peace. We need to do our part by holding powerful space, being a beacon of light in your community, in your family, in your home, in your own body, so that we can, because there's a mechanism that when you embody that, we flush out, okay? The collective light grows when you hold a high vibration, and we quickly move through these wars. Perhaps resolution can be discovered quicker with our participation. You know, so this is the invitation that I give, just practical, because this is what I see in my clients. When they begin to make shifts, the world does shift. I think we've seen that with what's happened in the pandemic. If you think about it, there's been a major awakening, and it has shifted timelines, and we can do the same again with this war. Okay, that's all I will contribute. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else have a question or a comment? Yes, please come and sit in the chair.
Slow. Okay. I'm good, but I'm slow. I don't know.
Could you please
That-
identify yourself?
Oh, Judy.
Have a sit.
Oh,
so we can see your face. That's good. Thank you, Judy. Go ahead.
okay. I don't know which of you I want to ask the question, but I have a
Please.
dissociative disorder that came from being abused at a very early age that I've remembered through a lot of stuff, like months old. And I wonder when I go into that state, I cannot seem to get back in the now. Like right now, I'm in the now. I know where I am. I know. And I've been to therapists. I've taken medication. I don't take drugs anymore. Does anybody know of anything? Because I can't even reach for God when I get that state. That's the worst thing. I can't find God. Thank you. That's my question. Can I go back there now?
You can.
That's a great question.
Really?
Yes.
It's a wonderful question.
Thank you.
Catherine, I see your hand.
Yeah. What is the lady's name?
Judy.
Judy. Judy. So I do understand some of what you described, and there is a very simple technique that might be very helpful to you. Writing down every day your fears and any disappointments, and then what I would recommend is giving them to God after you write it down, and just take about 5 minutes. When you start to feel that feeling of detachment or fear or worry, just sit down with a pen and paper and write those things down, and then give it up to God. Just say, please take this from me. And you can just rip it up into 100 pieces and throw it in the garbage. Or if you want, you can burn it in a little dish in the backyard and send it up to God and the angels. And it's been very helpful for people to be able to kind of get out of that loop of, fear and negativity, to release those things. So I hope that's helpful for you.
Geraldine, do you have a comment?
Yeah, sure. I do something called DNA reprogramming, and how I came on this modality is by working with my own shadow and trauma. I also had tremendous amount of trauma when I was a child, and I'll share with you what I discovered through that work. That when I sat with the difficult emotions, and emotions are multi-layered. When you sit with a difficult emotion based on a traumatic experience, you have created a perception based, a very myopic perception also, because it's based on your relationship with the event that happened. Okay, there's a very powerful technique that when you begin to first acknowledge the emotions that you felt at that time, name them out. So I suggest getting a little notebook, like Catherine was talking about that, but get a little notebook and write down the emotion that you felt. Go back to that moment, write down, make a list, and allow yourself to write all the emotions that go down. Pick the strongest one, go deeper, name out the emotions until you get to the root emotion in that experience. And when you get to that root emotion in the experience, begin to observe the other. Observe them. Why do they behave in this way? Observe this emotion. And you will begin to notice, actually, which is very interesting, that a lot of times we have taken on the same behavior that was imposed on us, the same emotional root that caused the behavior that is imposed on us. We tend to take on, and sometimes we end up living an entire life of this contraction, fear, anxiety, which is essentially the same vibrational frequency of the individuals that cause these harms on us. And we want to transmute that. We want to change that. So the question is, what would be the direct opposite emotion of that? Let's say the emotion was fear. What is the direct opposite? Feel within your body and find your own answer. Generally, we discover that the opposite of fear is love, for example. Okay, but you have to do your own journey. How do you feel when you feel love? And we have to educate ourselves to feel these positive emotions in the body, because they are biochemical responses that we need to reprogram. We create neural pathways. Right now, what's happening is that you have a neural pathway that keeps getting strengthened every time you go back to that memory or every time that memory is triggered. So it's really hard to change. So you have to build another neural pathway. And that new neural pathway has to be positive. And it has to be the opposite emotional construct that you have experienced. We have to build, we have to create, we have to experience that in meditation practice. Okay, so when you build this new reference, it will completely change. You will be freed from the heaviness of the emotions that are stored in your body, because what happens is that we're stuck in just feeling the body over and over again. That emotion, the sensation of the motion, we're stuck feeling it over and over again. So you need to feel it completely. How do you do that? By observing the emotion, not judging the emotion or the experience. And when you do that, you know, you will release that emotion. If you need help, you can always reach out. I'll be happy to support. But I also have videos on how to do this on my YouTube that you can access freely at any time.
All right, another question or any comment? Anyone on Zoom? Or anybody here in person? Okay, just a moment. I heard somebody's voice. Who was that?
Ann Ellis.
Ann.
Yeah.
Ann.
Hi, I'm on Zoom and I just wanted to say this is very interesting. I've enjoyed it very much. I don't have any questions. I do have a trauma-based neurological issue that I deal with frequently that involves a lot of pain. And so I'm very interested in what the two ladies just talked about a little bit about learning how to deal with these issues. But just thank you very much for all of you being here and sharing your wisdom and your experiences with us.
Yes.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Dick.
Neil, do you have a comment? Neil's going to take the chair.
If I can get there. No.
It's not that hard.
Well, again, the comments of the other two participants have been so right on. The question, it was interesting that someone though asked us about, you know, why is one group better than the other group? And it just struck me, we our practice. Well, it's so simple if we learn how to do it, and that is, again, this oneness and this universal love. If we can actually practice it, and somehow I learned to do it, and you have to work at it. So when I see someone who I don't agree with, immediately I say, I love you in my mind. I love you. I don't agree with you, but I love you and I honor you. And I will, you know, try to be positive and helpful to you. I won't fight with you, but I perhaps don't agree with your politics. I don't agree with your position. I don't agree with that, but I love you. And it's just as simple as that. And when you really, and I'm not saying, you know, I'm not trying to be flippant or this is easy. It took me a long time to really come to where that just comes out automatically in every case. You know, so a guy cuts you off on the road and you want to road rage. And instead you start off and say, I love you, you know,
How about
learn how to drive, jerk. You know, but I won't run them off the road. You know, I won't treat them. I won't treat them. You know, I start off, and then once you acknowledge that you love them, you know, then you're all the constructs and hormones, whatever,
and you practice it, and it falls into place, and it becomes easier and easier. And it really, and your life, my life is so much more pleasant because I automatically fall into that position. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
Thank
just Jesus's teachings, love your enemies. I mean, it didn't, yeah.
Jonelle has a comment.
I want to come up here and show you.
Can you sit in the chair, please, so everybody
Yeah,
can see you
I'm
on
so
Zoom?
sorry that so many people are leaving because maybe you can get this information to them, but I'm not only psycho, but I'm super psychic. And I noticed when the first Chihuahua jumped up on Kathy's lap, the little black one, I felt like it was a miracle. And I don't know if God told you to let him up there, but because we're not taking care of God's earth angels. And so I thought, when people see that cute little thing on our show, it's going to open up a heart chakra. So everybody that sees that, then I saw another, well, before I saw that, I saw what I call the miracle of that color behind her. What I saw was a butterfly. Okay. And so then when the second little one got up that was multicolored, this is what is so amazing. If I can get to it without. So when she moved to her left, and when you watch this, you'll see it. This white light came from the heavens right down on that little Chihuahua. And now I can't remember. It'll take a minute because I'm nervous and now my IQ goes way below. So if you just watch this, there's so many messages in just this one picture and your beautiful face. And when I first saw you, I got a lot of information out of your shirt, and maybe you can get my phone number and I'll give it to you. It was awesome. She's brilliant. Everything about her is all these people on there. And Angela Jones, I love you. I saw you on there. Call me.
All right. Casey, do you want to sit in the chair and make a comment?
Oh, a comment?
Or question? Anything? I saw you raise your hand.
I mean, I know that through some of this discussion, there's like some unrest about the judgments we have, and the beliefs we carry. And I think what Neil was trying to say, and I so love what you said, which is, I think the highest state of us seeking to become masters is a place of absolute non-judgment, and that everything's equally sacred and everything serves the evolution of our consciousness and where we're going as a humanity. And I think the hardest thing is to not be in judgment about what we perceive is one way or another way, like to accept it, but to also be open to listen to whatever the pieces that we're asked personally to play in the scheme of our life. Like we can't sit back passively and say it's all God's will. We are God's heart and hands and face and spirit, so that, yeah. So I don't know. It was interesting to me when I brought up about the war that there was a lot of unrest and discomfort, but we have to be able to be present to what's not comfortable in order to hold that space of the Christed love that we're asked to be. I guess maybe that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Anyone else? Stephanie.
Great discussion. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you so much, everybody. What came up for me in the discomfort of being not at peace and dualistic is, and I have to remind myself all the time, I can feel in my body. I have to be true to myself as I know myself. It's my job to take care of this body in this life. And so I know I have limitations, but they're not permanent. A lot of them are changing. But what's important for me is I need to keep myself safe physically, when there's been trauma and all. So we can't, it's embodying the teachings, like love your neighbor at war, and I do that, But there's some situations and some people, well, I do it remote and I don't, I'm not in the physical space. Some people I need to distance myself. I'm not ready to be fully loving in the presence of everybody or every situation. So I think when we try to embody the teachings or full spaciousness, oneness, there's a lot of choices every moment. And so just be really practical and reasonable and try things out. And I don't just take somebody else's way that worked for them at one moment. I have to try things on to see if they really work.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Anybody on Zoom have a question or a comment? Let me get back to the gallery so we can see everybody. Well, then I have a comment.
Yay.
I want to thank everybody who's participated in this session and this meeting, all of our speakers and all of those who even did not speak, because we all heard and we all felt and we're all feeling and we're all motivated and we've all received that energy and that information. And because of this, we have all made a difference in the advancement of humankind and the evolution of the universe. And it feels good.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Good.
Thank you, Dick.
Are we ready to say goodbye?
For now.
All right. Goodbye for now.
Good job.
Bye. Thank you so much.
I